Okay, I think we're live. Hello, everyone. So I'm Vicky. Thanks, the Prime, for the awesome introduction. I will be talking about treesitter. Let me mute. So I will be talking about treesitter, and so I wanted to talk about how I went from user to contributor. But there is some awesome people already talking about that in a few minutes and some talks after me. So it will mainly be me traveling around from being a user to contributor, but through the example of treesitter and how it helped me like building things and how I became a neovim core contributor now, because it's just new since a few days. So let's get started. The agenda will be pretty simple. It will just be the timeline since where I started, what makes me started, contribute to things and such like. And it will go from the beginning to the very end, in my opinion, on how text editor, will become and what the future will be. Without any further ado, let me just introduce me a bit. So I'm Thomas. I'm a computer science student at a French engineering school named NCMAG. I'm the co-owner and maintainer of some weird organization on GitHub named treesitter, and I'm, some say, lead treesitter dev neovim at neovim. You can contact me on GitHub, and the main way to actually send me messages is through Zulip. Everybody talks about his history with Vim. I started using Vim 2 years ago as a challenge with two of my friends that are actually watching the talk today. So I'm pretty excited about that, and being able to be there is just awesome. So let's get started. And I will just show you the line of my config that gets everything started. It is this very line. Everybody knows how to map things. Everybody knows how to configure neovim because you're all there, right? And I'm a pretty fan of FZF and fuzzy finding. So this very line is just me saying that I want to map my leader age to search the help text. And now you might say, why is it the thing that made me started in contributing? Because what this allows me is just to search the help tags and search for ideas. Like I want to find the buffer functions. I just type this and I have my buffer functions. I can search really quickly in my help tags. And what that causes, it helped me just reading that manual right. Nobody likes just going through the whole manual in one go. It is just boring and feels like a lose of time. So this helps me just searching for my ideas and go directly to the very function that I want to explore, the very thing that I want to use. And so it removes excuses to get started, to just write things and write snippets and such. So it helped me just write tiny things one by one. And I ended up writing some tiny snippets using that, like you just learn how to write simple functions in Vimmo. It was all Vimmo at start. Write simple function, write simple things. I wrote my very first like 100% Vimmo that I wrote with this one. And it is just actually quite simple. It is just me trying to change the last changed date of a file, of a Vimmo file. It is really simple. And it just worked right away. It is quite good, actually. I'm quite proud of it. So I started with that, and I ended up writing my extensions, write some tiny plugins that I used, and I ended up trying to want to contribute to some open source projects, and sorry, I'm blocked. I'm freezing a bit. So I ended up writing some tiny plugins, and I wanted to contribute to one plugin that I used a lot at this point, and it was some documentation generation plugin. I was using it because I was just writing a whole lot of documentation, and I find that boring. So I used it quite a bit, and I wanted to contribute some things for Python, actually. I wrote my PR, modified the thing, and it was just a horrible experience. So my first contribution was on this plugin, and so I discussed a bit with the maintainer. We ended up just not doing anything apart from me being criticized for what I wrote. And I ended up dropping the PR, my use of the plugin. I just stopped using the plugin. And I actually lost all faith in open source software, because I was thinking at this point that all open source project maintainers were just guys that just expose how they are strong at coding, how they do well things and such things. So yeah, I just dropped everything. And I stopped doing things. I stopped twitching my config, just stopped everything. It was quite short, actually, like 1 or 2 weeks. And I just started writing my own things afterwards. I wanted to keep them private, and I did it. And I just wanted 3 things. That was trying to tie the editor to my workflow and learn a bit of Vim. I wanted to be more at ease with Vim and trying to be able to do things like how I want them to work and tie the editor as I use it. So I wrote some things, and I wrote actually 2 plugins. The first one is called Language Tool and Vim. And it is actually a fork from another Vim, like pure Vim plugin that is called Vim Language Tool. You kind of understand that I'm quite good at naming things. And I just rewrote it in the end from scratch just to have that work in asynchronous, because I want the thing to go really fast and just not having to bother on this. So I rewrote this. It was in Vim, but then I started to look a bit into Lua and how plugins are wrote in Lua. And I wrote this little plugin called template.nvim. It is a really simple file template engine. Like, it is, the simplest file template engine you can think of. It is like pulled out straight from the actual help files called skeleton. You should really look into that. I will not go look into that today because we have other things to do, like treesitter stuff. So I wrote that, was pretty funny, and I ended up trying to write a bit of Lua, like a bit more. And I stumbled upon one thing called completion nvim, and the guy who wrote it, whose name is Hohen, he might actually be watching this talk too. But he was really an awesome guy. We ended up discussing a bit, doing things together, and I contributed for the first time to a foreign, like not mine, plugin in completion nvim. It was adding fuzzy completion to completion nvim. It was a great experience, and at this point, I was starting to be interested in how neovim is evolving and what things are added. And I discovered about treesitter. Treesitter is the next topic. Treesitter is a generic incremental parsing library. Like, now you'd say, yeah, it's written on this. I can obviously read it. So the thing is, I will just go through every single word. A library, I guess I will not explain what a library is, but parsing is the fact that we are going to extract some information from the buffers, like structure for Markdown documents, function definitions for C or Lua, anything like that. That's parsing. That's going from the actual text content to what is called a syntax tree. I will just show that in a more detailed way in a few minutes. The really interesting thing about treesitter is the incremental part. What that means is that when you change the buffer, treesitter will not parse the whole buffer each time. It will just change the tree bit by bit, branch by branch, just to adapt it to the content of the buffer. Why is it cool, you might ask? Because if you're editing a 1,000-line long file, and if you do it and you reparse the file every time, once you hit the key, it will just reparse the file and take a whole lot of time. By a whole lot of time, it's like 10 milliseconds, but on bigger file, it would just grow exponentially. But if it's incremental, every single keystroke will just be instantaneous every time, and you will be quite linear or even in O1 on the parsing. The last thing is the fact that treesitter is generic. Like, you can just parse thing really in a really generic way. You can have grammar for every single language you think of. I don't know how many parsers we have, but I think there is, like, any language I can think of has a parser for treesitter, which allows us to use it and parse it incrementally. Now let's go into the fun time. I'm going to just pop up this window is treesitter in action. On the left part, you have a C buffer, like that's just a standard C buffer. And on the right, you have the actual syntax tree. And tree depth is represented by indentation. Like on my root node, I have only 2 nodes, the pre-prop include and the function definition here. And you get the point. I can just skim through my buffer content with this. It is really, really simple. And you can see it can highlight the things. Like, I want to get the return type of my function definition. Okay, but that's just like Yak can do that. Many tools can do that. But let's say I want to edit my file now. Let's say I want to add a printf, saying hello world, because I'm just pretty new to programming, so I quite like to have that. And it just changes. You could see on the right, it changes the tree. It edits the tree in live. You don't see the difference performance-wise right now because it is just going on a little buffer. But I can say I've edited some really big files, like 7,000 lines long, and it's just instantaneous every time. One other thing you can just remark is even if the tree is not right, treesitter outputs a tree. Like, you can see it there. Treesitter says there is an error here, and it tries hard to recover from this error. That's a thing treesitter is really good at. It has error recovery. Treesitter tries to output the tree every time. Let's just paste something like this now. You can see there is also tiny errors everywhere. I insert my semicolon and we're here. Okay, so that's cool. But now the even cooler part is I have a tree and I want to extract some information from this tree. And treesitter has something called queries. Let me pull up the query buffer here. The plugin I'm using to visualize the tree and the queries is a plugin developed by one of the guys in the organization I own, and it is just working awesome. So let's say I want to extract every identifier node. Oh, I can't type. Identifier nodes from my tree. You can see it's a list-like syntax, and we query the tree this way. So we are just trying to extract every identifier nodes now this way. Let's say I want to extract every call expression, like this printf. And here we go. It works right away. Okay, let's say now I want to extract just the part of the text, the identifiers that just contain an A or a B, for example. Really simple. You just write it this way, and here we go. It just highlights the thing. Oh, it doesn't work. That's obvious, like demo effect. But I bet you can do it. And so you can query the tree like this. And now that you can query the tree, you can extract function definitions and name of the function defined within it. Now let me show you one really cool thing we started to develop with treesitter. Let's paste multiple times this thing. And that's just a demo. I will show what we call structural editing. We have a plugin called Archtext, and it is working quite good. And you can just edit and write query this way. And we'll just try and swap nodes around. Like I want to do it something like this. And I want the A to become the B and the B to become the A. And now if I hit Enter, it will just swap out nodes. Now you say, yeah, it is quite good, but can we do better? Now, it's pretty easy. So let me rerun this, and I will just wrap this to a function call, something like this. Now you can see where we are going after. We are trying to have this and edit the tree and just edit it with it easily. It is really beta software. There is many things that are pretty rough on the edges on treesitter, but that's the way it is. By the way, the highlighting you see on the left is actually made by treesitter. You can see I can add some really weird type names like code, and it highlights correctly the type name. That's what treesitter is good at, because treesitter actually handles the fact that this is a type, because it knows that when you write this here, the first word is actually a type. Enough of demo. Let's get into how we ended up doing engine treesitter. So I started engine treesitter just to use treesitter as a completion engine. It was actually pretty easy. Once you have queries, you can just extract definitions and so on. So I ended up doing that, and in parallel, I had Kayan Yazdani working on highlighting, and we met together, pushed by one guy named Tito that I will cite right after that. And we ended up putting our efforts together to have highlighting and completion out of the box using treesitter. And that's what we did. We started the organization, got some really amazing people contributing. I'm thinking about Steven Soika and Stefan Seitz. They are, and many other people. I'm sure I'm forgetting some people. And we ended up writing some things and got all of these features. We have a highlighting text objects, incremental selection, which is awesome. I don't know if I can demo it or if it breaks, but I can just incrementally select the nodes. See that? And that's awesome. We have some refactoring helpers, like go to definitions, find usages, and so on. Live renaming, and such things. You can even enhance some built-in Vim features. Thinking of folds, if someone saw the Lierens talk yesterday, define exp, include exp, and such things. And of course, we have completion, but in the meantime, we quite enhanced it because, there is work going on. So treesitter went well, and this is where I think we are touching the future of text editor. Let me just go through the two important things that are just principle for me in text editors. I want text editors to be tightly integrated in my workflow. Everybody is building software, right? But we are testing things. We are pushing things to Git and such things. And I want that to be just tightly integrated in my workflow. I want to see the changes that I made. I want to see if the changes that I'm doing are actually compiling. And Oliver with Fennel is really working toward that. You can write interactive things. You can do really awesome things this way. And the second thing that is really important for me is I want the editor to just get out of my way. I want the editor to pop up quickly and to just go out really quickly. everybody is editing text. That's our work, day-to-day work. But are we really editing text character by character? I don't think so. I think we're editing the text with a meaning. And I find it really bizarre to have this, to have text editor not actually understanding that we are modifying structured text. And treesitter is the way to go from this bit by bit editing to actual structured and meaning editing. I think that's all I will say. I will just say a big thank you to some awesome people that helped me along the way. Tito, he's my mentor. He's the best mentor of them all. There is also Shreyansh, who is mentored by him. He just pushed me starting NVim treesitter, and nothing of this would have been possible without him. I would like to thank Teach Dries. He is my vice mentor, kinda, and we had awesome discussions together. It was just so awesome to have you. Thanks, you do. A big thank you to Kayan Yazeni. He's the other co-owner of NVim treesitter, and we're just starting a big thing together. It's just awesome to have you. Bjorn Lindsay for the fact that it just wrote treesitter integration into neovim, and actually every single feature in neovim 0.5 has a relation with him, far from at any point. And a big thank you to Shreyansh, who is named BK1603, and Nicola Duja, who did the opening talk, like the first talk yesterday. We rehearsed together. It was just awesome to have you guys. A big thank you to Adam and the Primeagen for all the work they put up, the presentation, and the introduction. It's just really awesome to have you guys. Maybe I have a bit of time for a Q&A. I think I have. Yeah, I have, definitely. 10 minutes of Q&A. Awesome. Let me just pull up the chat and see the questions. Okay. Let me just look at the questions. Do I have a Twitch stream or YouTube? I am planning to maybe stream things at some point, but not yet, not ready yet. And I have a really poor connection, so it does actually is difficult. Does treesitter depends on saving the file or the location of cursor? I'm not sure I understand what you mean, but I will try to do it. Treesitter is actually pausing on every keystroke. We are subscribing to how buffer changes, and we are repausing every single time you change the buffer, incrementally pausing, I mean. So no saving as LSB does or location to the cursor. Is just we get the addition you do and we repause this way. The tree structure when there is a syntax error. That's easy because I'm quite good at messing things up. So let me just tidy that a bit and just see. So, okay, you see it there. I have the error here, like this node, this error node. I don't know if you can see it clearly. Let me zoom in a bit. So this error node is a node that is inserted by treesitter that helps it actually repause the things. Now you can see there is other errors. Sometimes the tricky thing is sometimes the errors are not really intuitive because it is incrementally pausing, you know? And sometimes you can't think of it. You can think the error is somewhere, but treesitter is finding it in another place. But I hope that you are pleased with the error node here. Could one use this for indentation as well? Yes, there is some work getting done for indentation, but formatting is a bit tricky because for now you have the relation from buffer to tree, but the relation from tree to buffer is actually not really easy. Like the structural editing is a bit cheaty, but this is being worked on. Indentation is being worked on because there is a built-in Vim feature called Indent Expert that can be used, and we can cheat a bit and use treesitter for this. Do you have any other question? Bjorn saying, do you have Fennel in the architects already? Not yet, but that's plan, and we might have. So the plan is I want to have treesitter integrated in neovim in the best way possible. And as queries are done in a Lisp-like language, maybe we will do some, or maybe there will be a plugin allowing to have some really seamless integration between treesitter and neovim. We'll see how it goes, how time goes, and such things. I have Michael saying, we would like to start using it. Do you recommend we try it now or wait a bit? I would say you could try it now if you expect some breakage, but it is pretty stable now. It is pretty stable now. Let me search for other questions. Okay. I have David saying, could you differentiate the goals of treesitter versus LSP? This is the most asked question ever about treesitter. So treesitter is actually passing one single file, and you can do queries on one single file. So you get some really simple state and information, like simple by like low-level structural informations, but you get them really fast because you just edit the tree live and such things. LSP can give you some really accurate informations, but in a really long time. You get to go through the communication protocol that I don't really know what it is. Pass it one way, pass it the other way, pass every single file, index the files. It's a bit long, but it got things right the first time, hopefully, in most cases. treesitter is a bit on the other way. You get less accurate things, but in a really fast way. I saw a question about my fonts. I'm using IBM Plex Mono, and it's the best font ever. Let me search for other questions. I have a question for Carl. Do I understand correctly that treesitter provides feature for any language that has properly defined syntax? Where do I start if I want to add a new language? It's easy. Start by contributing to neovim treesitter. Having the language supported is just a matter of adding two files, one file for the highlighting and one file for the definitions and reference things. You will need to know a bit of how treesitter queries are done, but that's really that's just Lispy things. And once you have that, everything will be supported right away. Other question. I don't see other questions. Carl, David, TJ, is it true you're the most handsome neovim core members? I don't think so, because there is this guy called TJ who is really, really handsome too. Do you have other questions? Yeah, Gabriel Sanchez, treesitter helps with folding quite a lot. It is pretty rough, but I know that there is some people, like a guy named Tito, I guess. He is working on some really awesome folding mechanism, And we are going to leverage that using treesitter to have some really nice things in folding and dancing and such things. Do I have other questions? Don't think so. I guess no. I have another one. We had this question. We have one question from the neovim guitar. Hi to the neovim guitar. Do I need to learn scheme to contribute to neovim? The answer is no. You just need to know how to write parentheses, and I guess that's something everybody knows, and equilibrate them, like having them opened and closed. And I think that's all. You will have to learn a bit how queries are done, but once you get that, that is just pattern matching on subtrees. It will just go right away. One more question. I've missed most of the talk, no worry. I've been looking for parsing libraries for Rust C. Can treesitter be used to parse arbitrary custom config file? Yes. I actually wrote a grammar for a custom, like homegrown to-do management tool. It's just like 40 lines. Once you get the grasp of how you write the grammar, it is just really easy. And you write config files really easy. And you can use treesitter to do it. I have a news. There is a tool called Radari to do reverse engineering. And it is using treesitter to parse command line arguments and parse the command language they have. So you can use it for everything. Yeah, just use treesitter. But the thing is, you have to keep that in mind. Treesitter is made to do some incrementally changing parsing. If you don't do some incrementally and changing text, I guess treesitter is not really the tool you want to use, because there might be things that are a little bit easier to do what you want to do. I don't know if I have some other questions. Okay, another. You have Kayan, Yazdani, John, Tito, awesome people in the chat answering questions. And Kayan Yazdani is the other resident expert on treesitter, together with John. So ask questions to them too. And I guess that's the end for me. Thanks for answering everything, for asking questions. Sorry, I was answering. Thanks for having me. And yeah, good luck to the other ones. Thanks for having the conf, and see you in another one.
Oh, hello.
Oh.
You can't even hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. I should leave.
Oh my goodness. Hey, look, it's me. Oh, wow, that was actually fairly well timed. I think that, unfortunately, I'm like talking to you as I hear you in the past, in the future. It's awkward. This is the weird, the transition. We haven't quite got that. Vigu, I hope that I have to actually, I can't even hear you or else I hear myself. But it's like hearing myself seconds in the past. I appreciate you. Thank you very much for this. This is actually super duper exciting. I think all my body wants to play with treesitter right now. And I just can't even help it. So we actually have so thank you very much. +1s for Vigu. Thank you very, very much. Thank you for that purely French-made treesitter, except for TJ is like, well, I did contribute a little bit. TJ, No. Oh my goodness, begin bot. Have I been kicked off?
Okay. I'm leaving. Let the real Vim experts talk.
Oh man, I had the greatest intro. No, it's fine. All right. And I also didn't get it. I also didn't get to do the other one.